Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
It's Wednesday afternoon. Welcome one and all to 5.8G Alive, brought to you by Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus, which brings you 5.8G Alive. With me, as usual, my friend.
Welcome and good evening, all. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus.
Well, Jennifer, we have an interesting program, so no chit-chat and no talking. We connected with the tribe. And we continue in our discussion from last week. So we're on to a very interesting discussion of how we manage expectations and what is this period of Lent, whether you're Islam, Hindu, Christian, we all reflecting now. So join us with two strong members of the tribe, Nancy Fook and Charmaine Parris. Let's be a tribe.
Welcome again. We have two beautiful guests, Nancy Fook and Charmaine Parris, to help us. We continue in the conversation we had, of course, on our last show, reflecting on Lent. What Lent means to us and what we are doing, in this Lenten period. And, Terry-Ann and I shared a lot, and we thought it would be really great to have, guests with us, our friends, supporters, and I would say Christians. And we're just happy to have them here. And we just started the conversation. They both follow us, so they know exactly what we're all about. And let me start. And anybody, Nancy or Charmaine, could answer me here. Lent. I shared what Lent meant. We shared what Lent meant to both of us. And I would like to open the conversation, start the conversation by hearing from you all what Lent really means to you.
Okay, so let me start. I remember you said something that the Archbishop had quoted one of the Calypsonians and say, well, I'm gone.
Crazy. Yes.
And I remember that because it is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But from my perspective, I feel that it is necessary and we need to go back and really experience the kind of Lent. I mean, it was really severe in those early days, but I feel for us to be able to understand that there's a time where we have to be quiet, go within, and that is and it gives us an opportunity. Lent gives us an opportunity. So I like that traditional way of forgetting all the parties and the this and the that, and really having time to really go within. So that we at that point can, as you all had said, it's a time for reflection. You need to look and really see the direction that you're going in. And we do need adjust. We are humans, so that we always need to adjust something in our everyday life. And I feel that that's an excellent time to be able to do it.
Great.
So that's Lent to me.
And just to piggyback a little bit on what Nancy's saying, I look at it as a time to reset. Stick up in, you're very busy all the time, you're doing all manners of things, your plate full, your schedule full. And to me, you need to stop, take stock of where you are and how are you going to move forward? What are you going to do in there? And that is why I had liked, as severe as Nancy said it was, when the nation as a whole observed Lent long ago, it helped you, because remember the radio stations were quiet, you're not hearing calypso or anything. So you had more time to think, for your mind to be quiet, for you to be quiet. And I don't want to sound too biblical here, but I remember in Jonah, when Jonah had called the fast and the nation went down in mourning and whatever, God relented. So to me, it's a time when we really have to examine our relationship with God and see where you are and how you could adjust, as Nancy said, how you could adjust and how you could move forward. So coming out of all the frenzy, the bacchanal, the party, the this, the that, it's just a cooling down, a stillness, a quietness, look inside, look within, and try to then put in place things that could help you to start again, to repair, or to improve, as the case might be. And I always like to, in Lent, take the time to do something that has to do more with my character building. If even I'm giving up something, I don't want to give up something and at the end of Lent, okay, I give up chocolate. And at the end of Lent, I start back to eat the chocolate. I try to do something that at the end of Lent, I would have developed a good habit that I can carry through or continue with. So it has changed my life. So I'm looking for something transformative rather than just a temporary something and then you go back as usual.
Charmaine, before Terry-Ann, I want to refer to something Charmaine just said before you give your views. Charmaine, you spoke about the whole nation. And I recall, yes, when it's Lent, because all the radio stations, everybody, said, whether you're Christian or not, whether, whoever, as long you live in the country and you put on your radio, you're not hearing any sort of festive type of music, anything loud. And to me, like everybody just, when I say fell in line, they just went along.
It was chill.
Yeah. Yes, because of that, even someone who may not have a similar faith, automatically they themselves just went within and started to reflect and appreciated that time. And won't you say now, and Terry-Ann could come in here, it may be more difficult for persons who didn't experience that in that era, the younger ones, to appreciate that peace and that type of reflection during this period?
I will not agree.
Okay, yeah.
I think if we go to the nation's clampdown, I think the clampdown was on calypso and soca, the indigenous arts. And in the olden days, you had a sort of colonial brush to it. So calypso is bad. So cut off calypso. And as far as I recall, you had all other genres continuing to be played. some of which didn't have conducive messages. And while the clampdown was enforced, I think it also allowed for a lot of hypocrisy, where people would on the surface say, yes, I'm observing Lent and so on, and all kinds of stuff going on in the background that was not conducive to Lent. So there were positives and its negatives. In the current era, where we have a lot of noise or distraction, and the culture is being recognized and accepted as not something that is unchristian and un-Catholic or un-Anglican or whichever of the religions observe Lent, and therefore needs to be centered. Because you have a lot of our musicians who produce work that can be played throughout the season. I appreciate the fact that they'd probably stay away from the more lewd messages, but continue to project the more positive ones. But that being said, the thing that I appreciate about our current environment and our current Lent, as I said last week, I use the period to question myself. And I think in the world today, with all that is going on, and when we look specifically at our cohort, with our challenges of facing the reality that we are now probably not as relevant as we were before. So many of us still struggling to be what we were before. Discovering that army of second stage people have no tolerance for us being on the stage with them, get off, get out of the way. And a lot of what we would want to go back to, because it's what we are accustomed to, is now perceived to be irrelevant. I think the discipline that, and we're not only dealing with Lent, because we are also now in Ramadan, and we're also in Hindu, and forgive me to the Hindu viewers, I've forgotten the name of the period that we are in now. This period that allows all of us to be still and reflect on what you're doing. And if we are dependent on the state, the media, to keep quiet so that we can be still, it tells me that we have work to do. Because in the middle of noise and in the middle of confusion, I think one of the things that our maturity brings to us in the middle of any chaos is the ability to sit back within ourselves. Be still. Greatest Ben Over could be playing on the radio. Whatever could be blasting from a bar next to my house. Somebody could be ranting and raving. But if we use the lessons of all of our faiths to silence ourselves and allow that God figure in our existence to speak to us about our direction, about our priorities, about our fears, about our insecurities, and use the wisdom of our age together with our faith to make decisions that can allow us to be better on this third act stage, so that you can't hide behind, well, is then the radio station not playing anything. I am making a decision to be disciplined. I am making a decision to step back and look at my behavior, and I am holding myself accountable, notwithstanding what is going on in the environment. I think Lent today, with the more open, with less restrictions, less imposed restrictions, I think in that way it allows us to have a more deliberate celebration and to come out stronger. So, Charmaine, as you said, so I give up meat for Lent, I give up this for Lent, and afterwards it's like you went on a fast or a diet and it's done now, so I'm back with a vengeance.
Break away.
break away. So, the distraction today, you choose to do something that really benefits you in a place that you need to work on, and it comes out a bit better. So, because I know people, it's like, you talk about they get on bad cannibal Monday and Tuesday and they go on for ashes
Ashes Wednesday.
put on the bikini and the tongues and they go on for ashes. I don't see a dichotomy in that, because if your heart is in the right place, your parade, you had your carnival, you understand, after this is something else. You come back to a space for you. So I tend to look at it in that way. It's not from the outside, you're being forced to be quiet, but internally you are saying, whether I'm Hindu, I'm Islam, I'm Christian, I know at this age, and I'm talking especially to our cohort, life going forward has to be different. I can't go back to what was. I'm going into the desert. I keep saying this desert, this training. And before I know how to deal with it, I've got to reflect. And I think that's the beauty of it. And the noise that's still there really tests my discipline and my commitment.
Can I say,
No,
though, can I say, though, that it requires, now, we have different persons with different strengths and their ability to do exactly what you're saying, whether there's noise or not. My point, though, is that when you, it's like it's something to assist you, because there it is, you don't have the noise, the fetting, the everything that was done. We are now going in, you are definitely in a quieter period. And so therefore, even if it allows you to really build that kind of discipline that you're talking about, it is an aid. Let me put it like that. To me, it is an aid to be able to do and get to the space that you're talking about, Terry-Ann. So, Charmaine, I know you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I wasn't thinking about, I agree with what Terry-Ann is saying. I quite agree, because Lent is a time for spiritual discipline, to kind of retrain ourselves in a particular, but I'm also saying, as a nation, you see, okay, everybody, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, everybody has a time of quiet. I was just saying, as a nation, we need to have a period of quiet. So even if you're not religious, you don't belong to any faith or whatever it is, we can't be just going at a pace all the time. It's what, 1.5 months out of the year. So I was just seeing it from that point of view, more of the persons outside there, not necessarily helping me. It will, because if you're not in the midst of all the noise going out, because you have to admit, like, I live opposite, there's a bar over the road. So when they're blasting music all the time, I always remember Good Fridays, and the place is dead quiet. There's something different. The place is quiet and everything. So I was just making the point from that. Not that I disagree with Terry, and I take your point absolutely.
Yeah.
From what I'm hearing too, it's important for us to set the tone. And when I say set the tone, and I'm looking at a broader sense, I know as individuals, I know we can do it. We can create that space because we are more conscious, we are more disciplined, and we have the background, This is what we want to do. But for others, who may and listening and may be getting little difficulty in introspection and blocking out the noise. It is really, I would think, important to set the tone. And to set the tone, you have to be very conscious of how we want to treat with this period. This is how I'm looking at it. We all know, all three, we know how we want to treat the period. We know what changes we want to bring about, you know, and we're very well aware also that to bring about those changes, it requires to do something different. And as Terian would say, and we are talking to our cohort, and whatever I think that we choose to do at this time to bring about change should be lasting throughout. I don't think we are at the stage or the age where it should be temporary. Right? So we should be very conscious. And I just want to share this. And I mean, it meant a lot, although Terian and I were speaking to each other, but I came away with a lot, especially when I looked at the show again. And I decided with my training as an energy coach, I say, you know what, let me do that. And I have been, and I shared openly, going through real soul searching and doubt and fear, and had to really fight to hold on to that faith and belief. And what helped me is the friends I had around, those who will have the same thinking like me in terms of their spirituality. And when I speak with them, I get messages coming. Say, okay, do so, build back your faith, trust, you know, and that helped me. That is a way, as I say, setting the tone. They help me bring me back to my faith, bring me back saying, hey, you're wavering here, you know, you should do X, you should do Y. And I decided, you know what, to help me also, and pulling from what was said to me, I decided to use the energy aspect and say, okay, when is it that I'll be at that high energy level, full of faith? When is it a wavering? What bringing me down really low? And I decided from the time I start my morning, anything that happened that I felt a weakening a bit, check it out. And I actually started noting, and let me just share one thing before let me give one example. I was getting a lift to one of my clinics, and I knew I had to leave home in a positive mind, full of faith. So I did meditate before I left, and I said, hey, nothing shaking me. But I'm not driving right with a friend. And I lead any conversation because I know it have to be all positive, right? I got a phone call from somebody else. And that phone call just was all negative. And it wasn't about my business. It's somebody else. It's a third-party situation. And because I was more conscious of the tone I want to set for myself, I put down, in midst of the conversation, I said, listen, you see that I don't feel, that's not for me to handle, let somebody else handle that. And from the time I put down the phone, I just kind of shake myself. And I told my friend who was driving, I said, listen, right here, I only want positives. I don't want no third-party information. But I'm saying this because I had to be so conscious. And I'm being honest. Let me tell you, if I wasn't so conscious, I would have been in the back of all the way down, I would have been giving advice and giving my opinion on this. And let me tell you, that would have just changed me from the high energy and the positive energy I left home with to being midway. And by the time I reached the clinic, my pressure high with you.
Hi.
So I'm
You're
just
taking
sharing
all
this
that
because
negative.
we have to be aware from the start of the day. This is how we want the day to run, and this is what we would do if we find ourselves wavering from that, what we set for ourselves. I just wanted to share that because it's not always easy, but the consciousness helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I call it being intentional
Yes.
in the sense of just of what Terry-Ann had said. Everything you're going to do, what clothes you're going to put on, what is the image you're trying to portray? Question, question, question. Why are you doing what you're doing? Because a lot of the times we do things, we just do it. You don't even
Yeah.
think about it. And when you stop to question why you do it, I mean, I am surprised sometimes at the reason. And I think Lent is a time when you really have to strip away all the yeah, all the those areas where you're just answering because that's what you're accustomed seeing, and
Mm-hmm.
really dig down deep to see what is it you're really saying here. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing the same thing over and over? Have you found yourself in a rut? And that kind of soul searching and that kind of for our cohort is very important. Is very important. And as I said, I mean, I make my 3 score and 10, and every funeral I go to, I tend to, you recognize your mortality and all of that is no longer way down the road there, it's right up in your
mhm,
face.
mhm, mhm.
If you're not intentional about what you're doing, then it's almost like if you're just operating like a robot,
Mm-hmm.
and we could get ourselves just moving. This is why some people like to be busy, because then it doesn't allow you time to think,
To
analyze,
think.
or even be critical in your thinking of what you're doing. Why are you doing what you're doing?
Yep. And you
Yeah.
know how many people, rather than face the fact,
Yeah.
that's what they will do. Keep
Mm-hmm.
busy so that they don't have to face that. And that still brings them to a place of discontent eventually. It ain't going to be any better. But I always remember, was it just the other day, what we really have to do at the start of the day, and we, as a Christian, remember my relationship with God and who God is to me is what really I need to get as close as possible to what he is expecting of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he have an expectation, right? And so at the start of each day, if you really reflect and understand that that relationship is really so important, then and you are convinced and you seek the guidance, you will understand that anything that you're going to do after that, once you are firm in your belief, you are going to be guided, and so therefore you will have the answers that may not be the best. It may not be your first choice. You might have done something differently. And that's the hard part about it. We are sometimes forced to make choices that
Mm-hmm.
it's easier the other way to go the other way, but we have to then make the choice that if it's going to really be for our long-term good, that's the choice we have to make. Whether it's a relationship, whatever the choice is. And it's always going to be difficult. And if we don't do it, we're in trouble. We will always be unhappy. And therefore, and that's why I like the quiet of Lent, because then you have no choice but to really think. But you see, it's not only about the music and so, it's about the fetting and the this and the that we did not do. And we didn't do it because you wanted to really cut off that kind of festivity to really get close and have relationship with your God, because that's what you're looking for. You're in the desert and you're looking to get close to him.
Okay, I want to challenge the three of you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know I always have a contrary view. And I talk to peers and I am approaching 10. I'm the baby. I'm embracing the fact that
You're just approaching it. You're just approaching it.
Quarrel and say, no, I'm in the group. But I think a lot of our cohort's challenge is that we continue, drive looking in the rearview mirror and we do look ahead. And you're coming from this really powerful lives. We have all lived a life where we've contributed so much and you have no reference. So I would think that we've all gotten to a stage where we've anchored in faith and we understand who that being God is and the relationship. So you're stepping off from a very high plateau, from a very established position. But for a lot of people who don't know that and who only know what I've just emerged from, the life of whatever you do to get where you are, you ratch plenty, you lie plenty, you had a ball. We all know the life that we had. It can be such a daunting, frightening task to keep quiet, look in the future, which is empty, because you've not put anything, you've not begun to think of what that future is. It is blank. It is a blank canvas. You've never had to deal with a blank canvas because when you were a teenager, your parents fill it in and you went and you do it. Then you get busy, you had children, you raised family, you were in organizations, all kinds of stuff. So you've never really had a blank canvas. And now compounded with silence when this thing called God going to come in and review your life. And because we know that that life was not perfect and it have all kind of bacchanal in it, the accountability that you have to deal with before you get to that very great place that you are talking about, which is continuing on that relationship. I think for a lot of our older cohort, younger cohort, all of us, to face that blank canvas and to sit in silence and hold ourselves accountable for how we got to where we are. It's probably one of the most scary things and frightening things that you can have. And I think a lot of us are not getting into the appreciation of Lent, Ramadan, whatever it is, because of the single fear of the word accountability. There are so many negatives attached to it. There ain't gonna have no good outcome from this. It is really a challenge. So the question that I'm going to put is, can we reflect on that passage? How did we come to terms with ourselves transitioning from that person developed to be we are all very powerful, positive people, to becoming at ease, leaving that person behind and being hopeful, positive, and optimistic about creating from scratch a person to take us onto the third act stage. You understand what I'm saying?
Let me while Nancy and Charmaine ponder to respond to you. Let me say this. And of course, you know, we like to use it's addressed to me personal.
Yeah, it's always a personal story.
My journey to reach where I am. And I on one side, I understand those who may not had that opportunity. So I believe for me, I had that opportunity, that exposure in terms of being involved in church activities, involved with persons who are around me who had that belief, who introduced me to well, I'm very Catholic, as you know, so I would go to all the pilgrimage, all the different things that they have, and you go and you listen and you hear stories and testimonies and you hear the priest talk, etc., etc. That helped throughout my journey of spirituality, right through, to help me reach where I am. And I'm still on the road of spirituality and embracing all the opportunities from my belief, from my church, etc. I do have friends who not in the same situation as I am, weren't exposed to Christianity, Catholic, in that way. And when I look at their, I try, I do try every now and again to get them to go with me to some meeting or some sort of thing to help with them get more information in terms of how they could lead that Christian life. As you said, they want to change. They see, especially when you reach these street scores and somewhere along the line, you see that need, because Charmaine said, you're facing mortality. And when you're facing mortality, you tell yourself, hey, you can't face mortality without God. That is how we, somewhere in the back of our heads, whether we're Christians or not, facing mortality means you have to have God in your life, right? So yes, there's certain for that. And it is difficult because you have to change your whole belief system and a lot of things. And my suggestion or my thinking is persons like that, if they can't do it, because you can't do it alone because you don't know what to do. You don't know, you have no path, you have no example ahead of you. Maybe better to look for a friend or two who you believe that they're on the track that you want to be on, and you hook up and see how you can get it done, because it is difficult to do something if you don't know, if you don't have a track to run on. So that's just me, you know, my views on that.
Yeah, Jennifer, you know what I think of too? Sometimes we are forced to, because our back is against the wall, we have no choice. We have to look for something different. And then I believe in each of us, there is a belief that there is a higher power that,
yes,
because there's enough that happens around us for us to hear. And there must have been some time that you were exposed, right, to some kind of belief in a higher power. And so when you see your back is against the wall, or you're down and out, and the only thing you could do is face up and look up, then I believe that is always a friend. You hear people say, well, you know what? I remember at some point I could go to church, and one little church service could make a difference, because something that you could hear could help you. And so I believe when people are in that kind of a situation, they probably haven't reached that back against the wall. They haven't reached that point for them to want to move forward and to really do something about it. If you understand what I mean and see what I'm trying to say, because it has to be a dire situation sometimes for us to make that decision to look elsewhere and to look forward. Sorry, to look forward. I think it's a deep experience, a traumatic experience that sometimes propels us into that looking forward.
Charmaine?
For me, I firmly believe whatever you call your higher power, I could only talk about the God that I know and believe in. I believe he reaches to everybody, reaches out. And I say that because from my own life, I had an experience. I remember on Frederick Street playing mass, because in those days, every year I played my mass. And I used to play with two friends, and we always played in different sections. So when it's time to get in his section, I am in the band alone. But you're comfortable in your band, so it's not a big thing. I was standing up on Frederick Street there in the band, and it was as if I was on an island by myself. All the people around me, but this sense of just loneliness, like they didn't mean anything and whatever. And after that experience, I never played mass again. But that was my journey in terms of coming back to the Lord, because I had been out of church and all of that, not going to having a time, right? And the world and I'm enjoying myself. And the reality is that for many people, I believe God reaches out in whatever way to you, but he does not hit us over the head. He reaches out and offers, and we have to say the yes. And we have to continue to say the yes, because we could start off saying the yes and then at any point in time down the road, they fall back. So it's a decision we have to make. And for me, journeying down the road, it's always in hindsight easier to see all the things that were put in. Right? When you're going through it, you don't see that. But in hindsight, you see, because about maybe 20 years before that happened in the band, I had gone to join a prayer group. I remember the promenade. A friend and I, we left Port of Spain, drove down, came into the church on the promenade. And when we walked, a big prayer meeting going on. And they were praying in tongues. I didn't understand what that was. I said, Anne-Marie, let me go from here. I don't know what madness is this. And we just walked out of the church, never went back, and anything like that. And as I say, 20 years after, that is the same community I belong to now. But that is why, to me, I believe God tries and tries. He doesn't just try once and give up on us and say, go your road. He continues to try.
Yes.
And it's up to us. All right? No. Because many of, whether it's our cohort on the younger side or the older side, when we are formed by the world, it's difficult. It is difficult. So that is why those of us who claim we know God and we believe in this God, have to pray for them, because it isn't easy. Sin is sweet, sin is pleasurable, you have a good time. So that you now have to kind of, is a spiritual battle you're fighting there, and you have to bring everything that you have to the table to try and to get those people who so much out in the world or in the darkness, as however you want to call it, at least for them to come and hear what God is offering them, to say the yes. Some will, some won't.
And I think one of the ways that I look at it is that, and it isn't I don't use the word change. I don't use the word, I use the word recreate, because at the end of the day, you are doing something, you have to go forward with something new. How you are in your 50s, like I said something last week, you know, I am 63. And I do not want to be a 90-year-old behaving like how I behave right
Yes.
now.
You made me laugh with that one.
It ain't gonna work.
But it's true.
It ain't gonna work. It will be as bad as somebody, you know, we look at people now, you're in your 50s, you're in your 60s, and you're behaving like you're in your 20s and your 30s. Inappropriate,
Yes. Pathetic.
ridiculous. Get in your lane and organize. And I think the way I see it is to look forward, and I see it as an opportunity to capture my power, to really capture and tap into my power, all that has been given to me from all the talent, all the skills, and say, okay, I'm going to use all of this to create something new. But you have to take a pause and say, all right, where you get it? Who gave it to you? And for what purpose? Because if you had the power and you've not used it well, the likelihood is you're not in a good place right now. So as you're looking forward, you're not in a very good place. And not in a very good place does not mean I don't have enough money and I can't buy this. It is a place in your body and your soul, how you feel about yourself, how you look at yourself, what you think about yourself, whether you believe you're worth something or you have something to build or to give. And I think one of the first things you know, you really have to sit down and do that self-examination. If you have the Christian, you say self-examine and really say, all right, what is going on with you? And the first thing you really have to do is take stock of I first take stock of the wonderful things in my life.
Start on a positive note.
It's good to be positive.
I always start with those wonderful things in my life and then go to the stuff that I know I messed up and the stuff that I know I really, really do nonsense, pure BS. And, you know, sometimes, we talked about it, Jennifer, when you put it in your face, when you put it up in front of your face, it is not as frightening. It is not as scary. It is not as bad. And I think when you put it together with the fact that you've arrived where you are, with all these gifts that you have, all these things that you have, even if you're in a bad place, the fact you are here means that there's something there. And I think, you know, that sometimes it will be intimidating for people to start with the God word. It is intimidating for some people to start from there. But I think when you do that reflection and you look at how I end up still being here, still being alive, still existing, and with the capacity to look forward and say, you know, I could determine where I want to go. And you ask yourself a simple question: what causing that? I think that kind of reflection gets you into a place that says there's something much bigger than you and better than you. And if you draw upon that, you could begin to shape bit by bit where you want to take these gifts to go forward. And I think in that way, it becomes a little less daunting. And Charmaine, as you said, he is there always waiting for you to say, hey, come. Won't impose himself on you. Never will. But you walk along not recognizing that you're tapping into that God in you. You're calling it all kind of crazy thing. You're calling it your conscience. You're calling it your intelligence. You're calling it your all kind of nonsense. And I think if we are able to, as grown, mature people on the third act stage, can take that first step of do that list. Where are you now? And this period of quiet, for whatever distractions you're living in, whatever noise you're living in, do that accountability, and ask the decision. So where you want to be? We talked about 5 years, 3 years, whatever it is, what you want to do, and start those steps. I think the facing up to the nonsense that you do. The fact that you're here means it's not so much nonsense. You took us exactly to get here, but here.
Still here.
You know? And you can then begin to shape this third act of life and walk into the 60s, walk into the 70s, walk into the 80s more and more comfortable. I'll give a story. I had a conversation with my dad this weekend, and all of you all know him. And he was always, I think, 30 years younger than he was. In his 60s, he was behaving like a 30-year-old. In his 70s, he wasn't behaving. He's 92. Okay. And when he turned 90, he took a full 2 years to wrap his head around the fact that I'm 90 and I'm not dead. Given the life he had, I think he thought he would have been dead long time. Especially surviving his wife. And he said something to me. He said, Terry, I finally think I settled down as a 92-year-old. I think I finally settled down and I've come to terms with a lot. And he said something that he doesn't think he would have been where he is now if he didn't do everything that he did. So he had no regrets. For the good, the bad, and the indifferent. He had no regrets. And without regret, he was able to face without fear. So he can sit back now and say, all right, I'm 92. I don't have to be out after sunset. So you see, once the sun going down, don't come and take me nowhere. Let me just be happy and live. And I think the lesson for me was, and this is what I would probably share, is to don't look at your past as regret. And it is what it is. It brought you here. Wholeheartedly. And just settle into it. And I think when we talk about Lent and we talk about reflection and we talk about self-examination and how do we get to the stage where we are relaxed and happy going forward, I think one of the first steps is to take that regret word out of your dictionary and to take that what I did was bad, or this was bad. It was what it was, and you are here now. And you have the ability and the capacity to forge something going forward. And it's all good. I think that is an important thing to do. And I think this period of time is required that allows us to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Terry, you're correct. When you were speaking before, I was just making some little notes. And at least what I had down here, please, is, we speak about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And we really have to forgive ourselves. You tend to say, I tell this person that I forgive them or forgive them. We're always talking about who we forgive. Right? That person did us wrong, but now we forgive and we move on. We really have to start with who we are.
Yeah.
And again, I just repeating this. We first have to realize, hey, that was our lives, that we lived it. We lived it. Most of the time, we are happy, Now we're looking back, we might figure we should not have done whatever it is. But when you check yourself, I'm sure your father forget, he was happy. He can't say he wasn't happy. People might not be happy with it.
He was happy.
But he was happy. He don't need to forgive nobody for seeing him as however they saw him. They have to deal with themselves. So we have to deal with us. Forgive us. Say, okay, let's face fact. We did enjoy our lives. The part we didn't enjoy, okay, just leave it alone. Focus, and you said it. If we have to go back on the things that make you happy. So
Mhm.
we will keep that spirit of gratitude. God allowed us, we lived, we had life, and brought us to this stage now where we could move into a different phase of life, just as happy, more aware. So we thank God for that. We are now aware. This is how we choose to live now. It gives us that peace of mind and everything. But first of all, we have to feel what it is that will give us that peace of mind and how we going. And I believe in writing. I write a lot. And when things, that last experience where I started to panic and have fear and set up a pressure, after I went through that, and the reason I was able to go through it and reach this as a comfort stage here is because I had a spiritual director with me, really guiding me to say, hey, just be grateful now. Look at where you reach. You did all that. You did well. You trust in God. Why is suddenly wavering and feel so and so? What do you want him to offer you? What do you want him to do for you? And if this is what you want him to do for you, this is what you have to do. You have to pray, you have to have faith, you have to go within yourselves, you have to remove all that fear. So I believe, yes, forgive yourselves, face whatever. I don't want to say face your demons, but face whatever
The
challenge
angels
you.
and the demons, not just the demons, angels and demons. They live
And
together.
I totally believe Charmaine said it, Nancy said it. If we believe, and this is me, I believe everybody you come, you have a message, is bring a message, And if you clear your mind and have that faith, you will get that message because it's in line with what you would like God to do for you. So, but we as individuals have to create that space. And let me just say one more thing. If you find the space at your home or wherever it's very distracting, then say, okay, I'll walk into a church or whoever. We're not looking at wherever you believe you would find that peace for that half an hour, that hour, whatever you give yourself the time. Remove from that environment that you feel is too busy and creating that noise, and find that environment, that little space. It could be under a tree somewhere that this is nothing about. You don't have to, may not even have to go far, but find that space that really you can embrace who you are and really start to say, hey, what type of relationship I want to have with my God? Right? I never had one before here now. I want one. I want to deal with this. And so this is just my reflecting on that, on life. Yeah.
And you
But
always have the Bible.
sorry.
You always would have the Bible, and I truly believe if you want to have words of wisdom, and I go back, and I could always find something that even if I'm anxious, because I believe, right? I believe in what whoever wrote and what they said about the life of Jesus, etc. And so I could always find words of comfort because remember that he walked with his people, his disciples and his apostles. And when he left, he said, I'm not leaving you alone. He left us with, and we said the Holy Spirit will be with you, and that is your guide and the words in the Bible. If I'm in the lowest of lows, that's where I turn to. any kind of comfort. So that's for me, and that's my journey, and that's what I feel is my stick to hold on to so that I don't fall.
Yes.
To prop me.
And you see, I think at the end of the day, even what Jennifer and Terry and they are doing here, I remember when we had the cruise in T and we started to talk about all these things that facing us as we get old. What are the things we fear most? And I mean, I heard some things that I didn't think about, but they were really, as people brought them up, you say, but yes, that's really one of the things. So it started to open you up. And subsequent events and so that you all had causes you to do some introspection. So even if you don't believe in the God that I know and believe in, or you're not one in terms of any big faith you're holding on to, I am saying if even you start off here with them, it starts to open you up because you have to be open in order for God to talk to you. You have to be listening if you have to hear something. All right? Because he could talk till the cows come home. If you ain't listening, nothing going anywhere. So I'm saying, even though what you all are doing is not faith based, that you're teaching, preaching something, that kind of thing, but it opens the person up because you're among your cohort, you're hearing things that what you haven't experienced yet, as well as what you may experience in the future, and it puts you in a better place. It puts you in a better place because down the road you will hear. I know I heard of some things even when Bernard came and talk about that. When the time came, I could have applied it. So they prepare you in that sense. They open you up to not just thinking, but to even options and things that could be done when and if a situation does arise, and you don't feel alone. And to me, there's a comfort in not feeling that you're alone this thing happening to, or I am alone in this. If we're among others and you're hearing them talking about it, you realize, okay, it didn't hit me last year, but now I'm experiencing it and so on. So I'm just thinking for the person whose default position is not going to God or Bible or whatever, there's a way. It might be the longer road, but it is a road that would lead you there anyway. Yep.
It's in the right community. I think that's where it starts. Because there are lots of people who are totally petrified by that accountability associated with God, and they could not to go there. And you can tell you blue, they ain't going because of what they understand. But I think if we have the right community, if we have the right tribe, which is one of the things we really are pushing here. So probably instead of running back to try to fit yourself back on the second act stage, you develop your own community, begin to talk about things that are common issues for you and dreams and wishes and hopes that you have to live how you want to live going on to the future. I think those could be, not every desert is a dry, horrible
oases.
A desert, you can't find an oasis in the desert that makes the desert more tolerable and even sometimes enjoyable.
Livable.
So that when you have to go back into the part of the desert, you can't haven't been refreshed by your oasis. Charmaine. And I think this is what time is flying again. This conversation, I think, is an example of the kind of conversations we as a cohort need to find like-minded people and talk about recognizing, looking forward, not referring backwards. You are where you are.
Ah,
You're alive, and you've come here with positives and negatives and indifference, but you can't carry where you were forward. You have to create something new, and it's okay if you get the right try. You would get there, and every year going forward is going to be stronger and better. And so you hit your 70s, you hit your 50s, you hit your 60s, you hit your 70s, and like my father is down and say, I'm happy at 92.
Yeah, good at this
who would have
stage.
thought?
And I'm
Who
Yes.
would have thought? Saddle,
so I'm in a retirement home happy. He'd
You
see
understand?
right now in bed and about 5 nurses taking care of him. Who would have thought? And that is happiness for him. And twice a week he go into mass and he gets in confession.
You understand?
So he reads
No, but acceptance, Terian, is something else, because I know every time I have a friend, every time I say, see me again, old and whatever. No, don't say that. But I suppose it depends on what you mean by old.
By all.
And I am not afraid of the getting old. I don't like the getting sick. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to be suffering easy. But
and young
I'm
people who
saying,
sick.
if you're mobile and you're moving about and whatever, what's wrong with getting old? I live a full life. I enjoyed myself.
And
You know
you're
what I
still
mean?
enjoying yourself.
Yes. In the land of the living, how I could not enjoy myself. So my thing is that you embracing the age, nothing wrong with the age. I'm not fighting it, but you accept it. This is who you are. And
And I
this is the
think
stage that are good, and you enjoy it just like you did all the other acts
All
that you
the
have.
other.
and I think Lent helps us to reflect on that and get to
Yes,
that acceptance, that
that's
stage of acceptance. And as you
mhm.
go about it more and more deeply, you go closer to that being that is accountable for life. It gave you life. I could take it one day, but just
You're right.
just relax and be happy. So good. So we could do our closing comments. This has been quite good. Nancy, your thoughts?
I do believe that there's always something that we share that people could learn, as you said. You may not fully believe in a God or what, but what we have spoken about, there is some little pearl there that they could have picked up, and you will continue to do an excellent job where that is. So continue as you are. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and certainly I'll be listening to the show to really see how it flowed and everything. But thank you for allowing me to share this evening.
And Charmaine?
I think for me, I would like to close by inviting all who may be looking on to really come and join the tribe, join this community, because it it will help. It will help a variety of people. People who sure about themselves, people who comfortable in their own skin, people who having doubts, people wherever you are on the journey. I think there's room and there's space for you in this tribe. So for me, I would extend a warm invitation to anybody who might look at the program and their friends and family, and to come on board and join. Thank you very much for having it. I think it was quite an interesting conversation.
Yes. And Charmaine, thanks again. Wasn't just an interesting conversation. Charmaine was very inspirational also.
True.
As
Hmm.
we spoke, a lot of notes, and when we wrapping up, I will refer to them. But I thank you. You really, this is all it's about. We spoke openly
Yeah.
about what we meant, etc. And you all definitely, Nancy, a lot of pearls to grasp. So thank you again. Have a very, what should I say, peaceful,
reflective Lent.
Reflective.
Reflective Lent. Yes.
Okay.
Same to you, Terry. Bye.
All the best.
Jennifer, what's your thoughts of that session?
Very, very good. As I said, very interesting, very inspirational. I just took a few notes. I mean, there's a lot of pearls, as Nancy said, and it's about understanding yourself. It's about being disciplined. As Charmaine mentioned, spirituality, spiritual discipline, setting a tone. We had a lot of talk about not just us who are Christians and believe in God and looking for ways to do some introspection and not just a temporary change, but really looking on our journey to make those changes. And of course, reference made to those who may not be on a similar journey and who must be looking on and would like to get on the journey, and tips as to how they can do that in different ways. So I found for me it was really, really a great conversation, and one I know our listeners will learn a lot from. Yeah?
Definitely. And as Charmaine said as she ended, you're welcome to join the tribe. And the easiest way to do it, as we keep saying, just hit the subscribe button. Whether you're on Facebook, follow us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. And we join the conversation. And
Yeah.
we will just remind you, keep listening, because just now we're going to be talking about our future road trip. It is coming. So as we continue to discover ourselves and accept ourselves with no regret, we accept ourselves, love ourselves so where we are, and we prepare for moving forward better. We want to thank you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
50 Plus Tribe, and follow us from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.